Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Today is the last last day of Ezer Neshech. Yeah. Today's Daf Ayin Hey. So we left off bottom line of Ayin Dalet Amud Beis.
So pumped up.
Taner Rabbanan. So today is a nice moving Gemara.
You can save some for tomorrow.
Oh, this week's the book.
Taner Rabbanan. Ayin Adon Chavero. Havani Kur Chitin with Kaititz Ayin Dalet Amud Beis.
Okay, sorry.
Oh, you're coming.
I know. Okay.
Person says to his friend, Halveni Kur Chitin, give me a kur, right? It's a value amount, 30 sa of Chitin of wheat, the Kaititz Leidamim. And he sets a price. Basically, he sets a price to his detriment. And I'm going to go ahead and borrow it. If the price goes up, I'll give you the set price we just established it at. And the price goes down, I'll just give you a kur back. So basically, it's like a win-win. So Halveni Kur Chitin, the Kaitz Leidamim, who's Lu? If it goes down in value, so nice to know Chitin. Then he just gives him the same volume of wheat. If he gives the same volume, then it's actually more value because it's more expensive. Then nice to him. Then he gives him the amount that he borrowed, the value of the amount at the time of the borrowing. Whereas says I velo katzatz. Well, why should he accept the wheat if, let's say, the price goes up? Excuse me. Why should he accept wheat if the price goes down? They established a price. This was the value at the time of the loan. So Rav Sheish Kamar, if they did not go ahead and make the condition, it was a loan. If they make the condition, then who's then who's he says no. If he didn't go ahead and make the condition, then if it goes down in value, then then he just takes the value in wheat. If it goes up in value, then nice sentiment. Then he goes ahead and gives him the value that was set at the time of the loan. Fine. Next Mishnah. Naya Mishnah. Ayin Hayes. So it says, Lo Yomar Adam Lechavero Havani Kur Chitin Vani Etin Lecha Legarment. Person should not go ahead and say, lend me some wheat now, then I'll give you later on the Gairan over at the during the threshing floor. So why? That's Sabasa, as we've seen throughout this parak. He says, hey, listen, I have a kur in my shed. I don't have the key, or my son's supposed to bring it to me. It's going to be a couple hours. So then you can do it because the Sabasa is only a midrabanan, and therefore for a small time like this, the Mishnah, the Tanakama is not choshev. However, the Hill says even temporary. If I borrow you wheat now and I'll give you wheat later this afternoon, that does not work. A woman should not go ahead and lend a loaf of bread to a friend unless they establish a value. And therefore, if the value goes up, then they just give them the cash. In other words, if it's $1, right? So if it goes up to $1.15 by the time she pays back after the weekend, then she just gives her $1. But if it's the same price, then she can go ahead and basically give the loaf back. Then it'll turn out that they'll come to ribis if it goes up in value. So Amar Rav Huna, Yeshlo sa, levasa, sasayim levasasayim. Says Rav Huna, a person has, now we said Yeshlo. In other words, if I say, hey, let me just borrow some wheat because I have some wheat in my shed. So let's say I have 10 pounds of wheat in my shed. So if I have 10 pounds of wheat in the shed, I can borrow 10 pounds right now. If I have 20 pounds in my shed, I can go ahead and borrow 20 pounds. However, Rabbi Yitzchak Omer, I feel Yeshlo sa, leiva aleh kamakur. Even if he only has one sa, right, he can borrow many more times against that. Many kurin, right? Each kur is 30 saw, right? So you can buy many more. In other words, why? Because if I own, all right, and then I lend you, or I borrow from you, but I have, and I'll just go ahead and give you that. So such a case, we say, why? Because I have. If I want to go ahead and give you right now, I could, right? But this saw, I don't necessarily have to give it to him. So therefore, this saw basically can keep on working, a million times over every time it matches because it's not set down. Because in other words, let's say he only has 1 pound and the guy wants to borrow 10 pounds based on because he has Yeshlo 1 pound. So which pound are you worried about that I don't have? The 8th pound? I have it right there. The 6th pound? I have it right there. So therefore, it can work multiple times, says Rabbi Yitzchak. And Tanya Rav Chia, the Siyah the Rav Yitzchak, actually there's a brisa that supports Rav Yitzchak. Tibas yain ain't low. If he doesn't even have a drop of wine, then he can't borrow. Or tipas shemen, or if he only has doesn't have a drop of oil, then ain't low. Then he does not consider to have mashvaha yesh. So if he does have a small amount, then then he can go ahead and borrow many times more. The Hillel says you can't go ahead and give these even short-term loans, weekend loans, day loans. Amarav Nachman, Amar Shmuel, to be Hillel. However, less hilchasa kivasa. The Allah is not like him. The Hillel Aimer Leisava Yishav V'chuli. A woman should not go ahead and let out. So Amarav Yidomer Shmuel, Hillel. This is the opinion of Hillel, right? Hillel is the one who says you can't even temporary, borrow. Like I just waited for my son's bring the key to the shed. Right, short-term loan. Same thing as a woman borrowing from her neighbor, short-term loan. I'll pay you back when I go to the grocery store later on. You can go ahead and borrow, right, casually, pay back casually. In other words, if it's a short term, if it's not supposed to really be, like a real loan, then it's permitted according to the Chacham.
Amen. Amen.
If you have a group of people and they're very makpid, very particular of one another, you spend $1.67, I'll give you $1.67. You do this, you do that, you measure this out. So on Shabbos, they can potentially violate midah, right? Measuring and weighing, right? These things one cannot do on Shabbos. Why? Because it's similar to perhaps one could, it's like doing business and being meticulous and writing down, and therefore Shema Yikaseh, therefore to do these types of actions on Shabbos, it would be prohibited. But people are very makpid. Hey, can I have a plate full of cholent? Oh, how much cholent is it? Right, so they measure it out, perhaps. Right, so Mishum Mida, Mishum Mishka, Mishum Minyan, also because of counting, Mishum Leivin, Uparin, also because of borrowing a landing, like they might come right down. And B'yantif, this occurs on Shabbos or Yantif, Kedivrei Hillel, and Hillel Apashim Ribbis. He says these issues are also of Ribbis, so one is particular, he can violate these. Oh, by the way, Talmidei Chachamim, they can go ahead and borrow from one another by ribbis. Right after this entire something, you can go over ribbis. The rest is my time. Oh, what's the reason? The ribbis asira. Right? They know that you can't go ahead and borrow or collect on interest, and therefore anything extra is a gift, nothing to do with the loan. Such as Amar Leishmul Lavu Bari Hilveni Meya Pilpin Ubemeya Vestrin Pilpin Vari. He says, "Hey, can I go ahead and borrow 100, and I'm going to give you 120 next week." So, that's ribbis. He says, no, because over there, the extra 20 is going to give anyway, whether or not he gives the loan. So I'm going to give you 20. And by the way, if I can borrow 100, that's also great. So therefore, he's not giving extra. It'll be mutter. And Rav Yehuda Rav Mutter Adam Lavas Banav Bneiso.
Sorry, purpose. There's no the idea of virus timing.
Yeah, I mean, his Rabbi Yehuda Rishon is not worried about it. I mean, they say it's mutter, right? So obviously, you got to be mind in terms of halacha, right? So and also he says mutter lavas barav b'nei beisa b'ribis. How can you lend your kids and your household ribis? Why? Because he should teach him, hey, see how bad this is. You're paying interest and all that. However, Blav Milsa, this is actually not a good idea. Why? Because they say, look how much money our dad is making off us. Let's go ahead and lend money and interest. Fine. Mishnah, last Mishnah of the parak. Go ahead and weed for me, and I'll weed you for you tomorrow. Or other me, or go ahead and dig for me, and I'll go ahead and I'll dig for you. That would be permitted. So even though you can't go ahead and borrow wheat for wheat, but you can do it digging for digging. However, you should not go ahead and say because you shouldn't go ahead and say weed for me, and I'll go ahead and dig for you, because maybe it could be that the second one is harder, and the reason why he's doing the second one is because he's delaying him to pay back, for the original weeding. So you can't say weed for me and then I'll dig for you, or eder me, or dig for me and I'll weed for you. So you can't trade different types of services for one another, but you can trade a regular service for a regular service. And so any day of the dry season is considered to be one. The summer days are one, even though the lengths of the days, not exactly the same. Some are a bit longer, some are a bit shorter, but it's considered like one. We're not, if I dig for you and you dig for me, right? You dig until sundown, right? Say one is in June and one's in August, so that would be okay. And also the days of the winter months are also considered to be the same. Also, you can't say, hey, plow for me in the dry season. I'll go ahead and plow for you in the wet season where it's more difficult. Because once again, because you're delaying me paying back for plowing my dry field, I'm going to do something even harder and dry during the wet season. So therefore, one cannot go ahead and do this. Yeah, because of rivers. Right? These are the type of pre interest and post interest. What do you mean, Kate? And not something a person says, I probably need to borrow money from this person who he says to him, he wants to go ahead and send him a gift. And he says, I'm sending this gift in order that you should go ahead and lend me. Right? He's buttering up. Zohi ribis mukdamas. This is considered to be ribis mukdamas. Let's say a person did borrow that he and then he returned the money. Ready? And then he sends him a gift. Because the money that you had by me, then Zohi ribis mucheres. This is considered to be ribis mucheres. Rabbi Shimon says, Yesh ribis dvarim. There's even interest in words. In other words, that you give words as payback. Right? You take a loan from somebody, and then you pay him back. In addition to not only do you pay him back, but he says, "Oh, by the way, so and so's coming. You might want to meet him." In other words, you do him a favor by giving him a good tip. And these are the people who have violated a lo saseh. So the lender, the borrower, a co-signer, witnesses, those all are part of the process. Even the scribe. Which one violation? So we've actually seen all these pasukim, right? Like Sitayn, right? The first pasuk of Sitayn as a kasbacha beribis, right? So it says over there, don't take from him ribis or neshech. You shouldn't be a creditor to him. It says over there you should not place upon him a credit or interest. And also because of all these people are assisting in the process, so therefore they're putting a stumbling block in front of their fellow man. So Zak the Gemara Satanya. How do you know that a person goes ahead and he borrows $100 from somebody and normally doesn't talk to that person? She also locked in the shalom, but today you're going to go up to give him a shalom aleichem just because yesterday he gave you a loan. Therefore it says neshach called davar asher yishach. It says afilo dibur iser. So it says over there the word called davar is a hint to dibur, even doing extra words which you normally wouldn't have done. The reason why you're doing it is because he lent you money, so therefore, even dibur could be a problem. The elu ivrin, and these people are violated. So we mentioned the Mishnah, a whole list of the people involved. Then we said list of psukim. So I'm going to buy malva ivrin bekulam. The lenders, all of them, the loiva, the bower, ivrin mishul la'sashich la'achicha. You should not go ahead and give interest to your fellow man, la'achicha la'sashich, all right, and also to your brother. You should not go ahead and give tashich or ribis. Also putting a stumbling block. You should not place a creditor, and they're assisting and providing the creditor upon him. 1 second. Yeah, that's the reaction. All right, fine. Yeah. All right. So, all right. So anyway, right, because Tosa says they could also potentially be involved in lifnei iver. Because if there's nobody else, then they would assist. But maybe the Gemara is going to say, so there's plenty of witnesses around. Just those who happen to be there aren't violating lifnei iver because others can do it. So Tanya Rabbi Shimon Aimer, the more than they gain, they really lose out, right? Even though they placed Moshe Rabbeinu is very wise and his Torah is true, they say. By the way, Moshe Rabbeinu is very wise, but had he known how geschmack, right, charging interest was, I don't think he would have written it. So therefore, it's like they're basically mocking Moshe Rabbeinu. So therefore, they more than the 326,042 cents of the gain, they're actually losing more. And how do you know that a person lends his friend money and his friend does not have money to pay him back yet? How do you know you shouldn't go ahead and walk by him or pass by him purposely? You should not be a creditor to him. It's like he basically gave him two punishments. It says, so it says over there that such a person, right, you have placed in front of him, and in front of it will be Aish and Mayim. So in other words, fire and water. It's like he gets punished with fire and water in this case. And I'm Rav Yudam, Rav, call me the person goes ahead and lends money without witnesses. He's actually in violation on placing a stumbling block. Why? Basically because the person I borrowed money from Randy, about $10,000, and there's no proof. So Randy's going to go ahead and say, okay, you got to pay me back, and I'm going to deny it, and I don't have to pay. So Randy, by not writing out a document, is basically planting a seed in my brain saying, oh, you're not going to just deny it, you're not paying back, right? He has to trust me. All right, so it's $10,000. So therefore, it's like leaf naiver to do it without a document.
You have to have it written.
Right. Whereas I'll just deny the loan. Right? Even a free loan.
They had this on the people's court.
Yeah.
You have to write it down.
Well, if it's written down,
or you're out.
Unless the person admits it. But this allows the person to admit it. And Reish Lakish he actually causes a curse to himself. So it says over there. Also, he causes curses because Randy's claiming money from me, and you see, and I deny it, and everyone says, "Oh, look at Randy, curse me him because he's going after such a tzaddik." Right? That would be me, right? So in that case, therefore, a person causes curses upon himself because the person will just claim it and think that the person who borrowed the money is denying is a tzaddik. Ravina used to follow everything the rabbi said. Vashi was intrigued. Okay, let me go ahead and test him. He says, do me a favor. Today's Erev Shabbos, but I might be able to go ahead and buy this piece of land, and therefore I'm going to go ahead and make some good money. I just need some money, so you just give me 10 zuz. The shalach lei, right? Because we just said you can't lend money unless you write it down, because then, right? So he's trying to trip him up and have him borrow and lend money, right, without writing down. So he says, no, shalach lei, nisi marsadi v'nichlav. Okay, perfect. We'll get some witnesses, and then we'll go ahead and write it up. Kasva. So shalach lei afilu ananami, even me, you don't trust me. Just give me the money. So shalach lei kol shekain damar. Certainly you, the Tar Begir, said that you're busy learning. Right? You're going to be busy learning. You might forget about this, and therefore people will go ahead and curse me. So we see that Ravina did follow everything. So Tanur Rabbanan Shleish Tzuakim in the ending. Or there are three that yell out, cry out, and are not answered. Velohain. The person who has money lends it out without witnesses. Right, because then he gives the other person leaf neiver. The one who goes ahead and acquires a mask for himself. We'll soon see what that is. And someone whose wife rules over him. So what's the case of you basically acquire for yourself your own master? So he could some say right, a guy who says, "Oh, this is not mine. I'm not rich. I don't have this." This Bentley in front of my house, so I'm not giving it to the shul. This is my Goyish neighbors. So all of a sudden the Goyish neighbors' ears are going to perk up. It says, "Oh, we got witnesses to say that this is our car," and they'll go ahead and take the car. So or land, right? And some have right? One who goes ahead and writes his assets to his kids. All right, I trust them. You shouldn't trust them. Right? Some say right? Person goes ahead, he doesn't have mazel in one place, but person's mashana makom, he's mashana his mazel. Then maybe he goes ahead and moves. Maybe he can go ahead and earn a living, but he doesn't. He doesn't leave. So he's like kind of adon li atzmo. So hajin Allah,